Hello guys, so today I'm gonna do a flight in Aerofly FS4. So I got myself a new flight simulator and let's check out how things work out. I already built myself a short route. You do this inside the game, which I really like. And as you can see, it shows you the distance and also the cruising altitude, which you can change. Like if I change the cruising altitude, you can see that the top of descent and top of climb move accordingly. But I'll set this back to 20,000 feet. Click OK. And now all I have to do is click this button up here, and this will place my plane at the beginning of this route. Now if I go on location, you can see that I'm currently in the takeoff position. I could as well pick a parking position, but the cool thing, and start in cold and dark, but the cool thing about the takeoff position is that the plane will be configured ready for takeoff. So everything is programmed, also the FMC and the route and everything. So let's take a look how that works. I'm gonna pick the CRJ900. Maybe we'll pick another livery. So there are many nice liveries as well. And now I'm gonna go on start. And so there is no loading time in this game. I don't know how this works, but we can get started right away. And the first thing I've noticed when starting my first flight is the quality of the cockpit. Not only in this plane, but basically in all planes. I got myself the deluxe version that comes with 30 planes, and they all have basically the same quality. And there's also a lot of detail. So I watched some videos on the CRJ900, and the PFD and the cockpit and everything basically looks like this one. But okay, so let's take a look around. I'm gonna bring back the yoke, bring it down a bit. Maybe switch the altimeter to the other unit, which I'm more familiar with. And let's have a look at the FMA. So the pitch and roll mode is both already engaged for takeoff. And then we have LNAV armed, so FMS1 is basically LNAV. And the cruising altitude is also set already. Alright. So I think we're pretty much ready to go. And there's a tutorial on the website from Aerofly, and I'm trying to follow that. And I hope I will do everything roughly right. Alright, let's give it a go. I'm gonna release the parking brake and set my hardware throttle to full thrust, and that puts the throttle in the plane to the toga detent, which is what we want. Alright, see there are also indications for V1, V-rotate and so on. Trim on the flight directors, positive rate gear up, and when I've reached 1000 feet above ground level, see LNAV has already engaged. I'm going to kick in the autopilot and bring the throttle back to climb thrust, and then I will engage flight level change and bug up the speed, let's say to 210 knots. Now as we have reached 180 knots, I can retract flaps. And after takeoff, I think we have to disengage those two. Or at least press those buttons, as I read in the menu. Let's increase the range a bit here. The plane climbs really quickly, so I can bug up further to 240 knots. And now I also have to disarm the thrust reversers. And flight level change, it's called climb here. It works like a charm, really smooth, and the acceleration works as expected. Taxi lights can also come off. Well, I forgot to put this to on, seatbelts to on, but anyway. I'll give you some camera views once I have reached 10,000 feet. So now we will further bug up the speed, let's say to 280 knots, and we continue to climb to 20,000 feet. Let's zoom in a bit, synchronize the heading. Let me just have a quick look on my little checklist that I wrote. So that I don't forget something important here. Alrighty. This is how the scenery looks by default. So basically, you can't fly the whole world, but the parts of the world that you can fly, you can download packages that contain this default ortho scenery, which I think looks pretty good. And I'm currently capturing the video, playing on high settings, and I'm getting 60 frames per second. Having this kind of graphics quality and with the performance of this frame rate is pretty good. That's very unusual for a flight simulator. You can see that the water is not animated. That's something people complain about, and I agree, but I guess you can't have everything. I like how you can switch between those camera views. We're almost at 20,000 feet. So let's bug up the speed to 320 knots. I also like the detail, like how the FMAs are blinking as they get engaged. There's even a speed trend vector, and it's very detailed. Like, for example, I could change those bearing indications here or toggle them off. Now I have to bring back the throttle because I don't want to get too fast. So we're flying on LNAV and the altitude has been captured. By the way, VT it's just a target speed that you can change yourself. You can even toggle that on or off. Pretty cool. I really like that. Lots of detail. Like here you can see the distance to our destination. I'm getting too fast. It's quite challenging to manage the speed because the thrust is so powerful. Man, those scenery. This looks really pretty, I have to say. There is also a shortcut you can use to to change the time, like so. See? The sun rises in the east. We're moving westwards. I can just easily change the time like so and move the sun around. Pretty cool. So let's go back to the romantic setting here. Man. No add-ons, no tools, no plugins. Just downloaded the sim and the scenery packages and I'm ready to go. Even the pilot looks good. There's also an overlay where you can click through the different camera settings. Okay, speed is fine. By the way, so if you have a look at the map, there is a top of descent. So yet another helpful information. And I will now use a feature to skip time or to skip the flight phase. If I click this button here, see that? We've just moved closer to the top of descent. Another cool feature. I don't know if you can go back in time, that would be cool too. "60 frames per second. I mean, some of the good performance might have to do with some systems, or like there's no real weather engine in this sim. Maybe that would cost some frames, but still, I think the code is just written very well. Otherwise, you wouldn't get such a great performance. But okay, let's prepare for descent. So first of all, I will reset the MCP altitude. Let's pick 3000 feet here. And maybe just to check that out, I will set myself some minimums. Let's go for 300 feet above ground level. And now we'll have a closer look at the PFD, because this plane has no VNAV, but it has something similar. As you can see, there has appeared a symbol, and that's basically the VNAV flight path. So what I will do is I will bring back the throttle, and now I'll switch over to vertical speed and just guess a descent rate in order to stay on that profile. And let's aim for a speed of, let's say, 300 knots. You see, now the symbol has moved down ever so slightly, so I have to increase the descent rate a bit. I could do all kinds of calculations, but I will just intuitively try to follow this symbol here. And try to maintain my target speed. There's also a wind indication, lots of helpful information here. I really love the PFD, and the autopilot just works. clouds look similar to the ones in X-Plane 11, I would say. I'm fine with it. Alright, so I'll have to remember some things. I'll have to rearm the thrust reversers, and I'll have to re-engage the continuous ignition and also the X-Flow auto override. Alrighty. And I think I'll already aim for the next target speed, because we are getting closer to 10,000 feet. By the way, the game has also a very nice HUD. There's a shortcut, and then you can toggle this HUD, and like an X-Plane you would have to look for the right data refs and then show them. I think that's just a better way of showing the essential information, and it's really giving you everything you need for this simulator. It also doesn't look like a racing game, so I like the style. There are limitations with this simulator, but the things they have done right. And that's actually an approach that I prefer. I rather have less features, but the features that are there in a good quality, than having several features with none of them being finished. Okay, so 10,000 feet and our speed, you know what, I'll just add some speed brake here. Alright, so look at that, we are at 10,000 feet and our speed is at around 250 knots. Let's back down to 240. So we're coming closer to our destination. And if we have a look at the flap speeds, 230 knots is like a magic number. That's when I can lower the flaps up to 20 degrees, so I will pick a target speed of, let's say, 222 knots. And let the speed come down ever so slightly. I can also reduce the descent rate a bit, because we're getting a bit low on profile. That's actually good. Reducing the descent rate allows me to decelerate a bit faster. You see, as I decrease the descent rate, speed is coming down a little bit faster. So I think I'll arm the thrust reversers now before I forget it later on. And what else do I have to think of? Landing lights can come on, taxi light as well. Before I forget it, seatbelts should have been on before. But anyway, I always forget that. You can also set this to auto. All right. These are AI traffic planes. Can toggle off or turn off these labels, but I kind of like it. I'm gonna go flaps 1. I'm not sure what the minimum flap speeds are, but I guess that's okay. It looks like the profile has changed, so I can reduce the descent rate drastically. So this is basically the night lighting here. From a certain time on, the night lighting will engage and everybody will turn on the light or turn it off. Alright, so let's get prepared. I'll go flaps 8, and the next target speed would be 170 knots, because at that speed we can fully extend the flaps. So I think I'll already buck that speed in here and let the speed come down. Because we are flying an ILS approach. If you have a look, I've picked an ILS approach, and this plane has a very nice feature, which is also there in reality, I believe, in the real plane, which is in auto-tuning. So you don't need to tune in the ILS frequency or the course. If you set the ILS approach in the FMC, it can do this automatically, and you will see this in a second. Alright, so I've already armed these, the thrust reversers. And before I forget it, I will now switch over to continuous ignition and turn on this too. Look at the sun, the scenery as it's coming closer. See that? We are still on the nav source for the FMC, but there is an overlay of the ILS. And if I arm the approach, the nav source should automatically switch over to the localizer, to the ILS. Look at that. Look also how these how the FMAs are blinking to show you something has changed. So there's literally nothing that feels sluggish inside these planes. Everything seems to be made with love. Just yesterday I flew the A320, also a default plane, and I was shocked. It almost felt like flying the A319 from Tolis. So there's our DME, 11 nautical miles. Now we have captured the glide slope. I'll go flaps 20. Okay, I got these two. The lights are okay. I'll arm these two. I'll go gear down. Maybe I'll also synchronize the heading here. Zoom in a bit. Set my final approach speed. I'll make it 125 knots. 125 knots. Go full flaps. Maybe 130 knots. Alright, so gear, flaps, speed. Quite challenging to manage the speed here. I'm so used to flying airliners with auto throttle. Good practice to fly these jets. Okay, now the speed is kind of stable. So, flaps, gears, speed. There's nothing like an auto brake. And speed brakes, I think they don't have to, or they don't get armed. They deploy automatically. Let's see. And I think I'll disconnect the autopilot. So for some reason the camera had just changed. But anyway. Localizer and glide slope are active. Autopilot is disengaged, flight directors are still active.
1000.
There's also a trim indication here. Very helpful.
500.
Hundred above.
Pronunciations are very good.
400. Minimums. 300.
Look at the PFD, all the detail, it's crazy. Even can't concentrate on landing.
200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 20. 10.
Alright, reverses. $60 knots. Now I'll use the toe brakes to brake. Even these are animated. Let's leave it at that point. I'm shocked how detailed the PFD is. Honestly, those planes, those default planes, are better than many payware add-ons in X-Plane that I bought. That's just my opinion. Now there's another cool feature. If you press pause, there's a very simple but fluid replay function. Look at that. Now of course you can use the different camera settings.
$500.
100 above.
400.
There is the engine sound. Alright. So let's see how I did the landing. Or shall we make it a bit more romantic lighting first, like so. See the landing lights here? And let's see if the ground spoilers have actually deployed. Wow! There they are. This simulator is so smooth, it's not normal. This is not normal. Okay, so please, before you buy this, make your research. The sim has limitations, but I think it's a hell lot of fun. It's easy to get into. The planes are, I mean, look at that. So we just flew the CRJ900. There's even a Concorde. 1, 2, 787, 3, 777, 4, 747, 5, 737, 6, A380, 7, A320, 8, Q400, 9, Learjet, 10, and there we are. So basically you get 10 larger planes, which all have this detail. It's crazy. Let me just give you an example. Maybe... Well, let's pick this one. By the way, you can just switch planes. Look at that. Look at the cockpit. This looks better than the old 7.7 by Flight Factor. I mean, okay, that's very old, but keep in mind this is a default plane. You don't have to pay for it. Well, you have to get the deluxe version. But you know, I paid 60 bucks for that, to get 30 planes. And that's the price I would have to pay for one plane. And for an add-on. So you might want to check it out. I will do more videos, I think, if I have time. I wanna try out the other planes. I already flew the 7.7. It's a great plane. A320 it's really good. Thanks for watching and goodbye.